Welcome to the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. I'm your host, Sanjay. Throughout my career, I've had side hustles, some of which have turned into real businesses. But first and foremost, I'm a serial technology entrepreneur. In the creator space, we hear plenty of advice on how to hustle harder and why you can sleep when you're dead. On this show, we ask new questions in hopes of getting new answers. Questions like, how can small businesses work smarter? How do you achieve balance between work and family? How can we redefine success in our businesses so that we don't burn out after year 3? Every week, I sit down with business founders at various stages of their side hustle to small business journey. These entrepreneurs are pushing the envelope while keeping their values. Keep listening for conversation, context, and camaraderie. Hi, and welcome to the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast. Today, we've got Robert Carnes with us, who's an author, marketer, and freelance copywriter.
That's right.
Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sanjay, for having me. I'm excited to have a conversation about side hustle to small business.
Exactly. So before we get into kind of the things that you do as side hustles, a lot of side hustles, give us a little bit about your background and what got you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I started out with the University of Georgia, which I know you can love and appreciate. Graduate degree in journalism, so I thought I was going to write for newspapers. That was going to be my big kind of dream, and maybe write some books on the side. I've always known that I loved writing, and that will obviously come up again as we have this conversation. But I graduated at the height of the Great Recession, so there wasn't a ton of opportunities, especially in journalism. So I went into marketing, which is very kind of adjacent, and I've learned throughout the years the benefits of having a degree in journalism, how that's benefited me in a career in marketing, and especially as I get more into the writing side of things. So I started working for a lot of different nonprofits here in Atlanta. Those were kind of the opportunities that I can find at the time when I graduated. And I actually loved it. I mean, it was not somewhere I expected my career to go, but because I worked for kind of smaller organizations that I was usually either the one marketing person or a marketing team of like 2, I had to do a lot of the things. I had to wear, metaphorically, a lot of hats.
Right.
And so doing graphic design, web development, photography, PR, like all the different things that are even remotely connected to marketing were things that I had to kind of learn on the job and just do them. And a lot of them are things I realized that I really loved and appreciated the talent to have. And other ones were like, okay, cool, I'm glad I did this. I'm glad I learned about it.
Yeah.
But I also would rather have somebody who likes this and appreciates this a lot more and has the training to do it better. Things like graphic design and web development, I'm like, I can appreciate this, I can speak this language, but now that I work full-time at a marketing agency and have people as a part of that team who that is their full-time role, I'm so glad to let those people live in their talents and do those things. And so now I work at a marketing agency here in Atlanta called Green Melon. I'm the marketing director, which really means I get to do the strategy for all of our clients. I also do some of our copywriting. I kind of do some of the account management side of things too, and kind of manage the relationships with those marketing clients we have and make sure that all the things that we are doing are serving them well and serving their customers well. And most of those businesses are small businesses. Most of the people that we're serving are small, maybe medium-sized businesses, but we're a small team as well, a team of 9 that's mostly here in the Atlanta area. So small business is kind of in my wheelhouse and my blood, and it's where I love to live.
Yeah. So you're working full-time in marketing, journalism degree.
Yes.
But now you've decided to do some kind of side hustle things. So talk to us about that. Like, what are the side hustles and why?
Sure. So those kind of started pretty organically, almost by accident, when I was working in the nonprofit world, and I had more time before I became married and became a dad. I had more time to be able to give back that way, which is an important piece of a side hustle, is making sure it's something sustainable, something you can actually do and pull off. And so, earlier in my career, I had the time, I had the interest. I wasn't making a ton of money, so I was like, it'd be nice to earn a little bit of another paycheck kind of on the side. And I also wanted to grow my skills. I wasn't getting to do as much of the writing piece. It was the thing that I had started my career hoping to do. So I was like, okay, how can I put myself out there? How can I build my connections, build my skills? Let me just try this freelance thing for a little while. Let me see if I can become kind of a copywriter. I tried a couple different things, maybe doing some graphic design for some clients on the side. I did web development for a little while as kind of a side piece to learn that up. And then I landed on really my skill set lent itself well to being a marketing copywriter, writing blog posts and case studies and white papers and anything that a client needed to be able to kind of be researched and written and published online. It's like, I can do that. I feel like I can help you out. And it gave me the flexibility to be able to serve a lot of new, different clients. Many of them were in the nonprofit space. Most of them were still in Atlanta, but it, again, built my connections more. I actually got a full-time job, again, kind of midway through my career. One of those freelance gigs turned into a full-time job, which was awesome. I mean, it just showed the benefit of being able to kind of put myself back out there. And I think I really did grow a lot of those ways by learning a lot about kind of what the web needed in terms of writing. So again, it started almost by happenstance, but I'm really glad and I really appreciate those experiences and those connections I was able to make by becoming kind of a marketing copywriter, which I still do here and there. I don't have as much time as I'd like, and I'm doing a lot more now of what I wanted to do than I was earlier in my career. But I still love the kind of the benefits that I get. And it's also kind of a creative outlet as well to be able to do some stuff that I wouldn't normally get to do in my full-time job.
Right. So, one of the things a lot of people look at when they're thinking about doing side hustles is figuring out how to scale the things that they do. What you're doing as a copywriter is a very time-intensive thing.
Yes.
Have you thought about ways of how do you scale this? How do you make it more? And I know maybe the default answer is AI, but maybe there's other answers. Hopefully there's other answers beyond that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think by nature, it can be a good thing, maybe not to scale too big.
Yeah.
Because it does, I mean, when I'm doing it well and when I'm doing it the way that I want to, which is, again, diving into something deeply, researching it well, making sure that the quality of what I'm putting together, how I'm treating my clients is at a high level. Like, I don't want to outscale that too quickly, especially since in this capacity, I'm just a solopreneur. I'm the one doing it myself. I have to also be the one who's got to find the clients and bill the clients and make sure that they pay me and make sure that, I'm getting paid a fair amount for what I'm putting into this. So, scale is often the thing we talk about and focus on, but I try to make sure that I'm not doing that to the point where it's at my detriment, right? Or even to the detriment of my clients. AI is an interesting another part of this conversation. And that could be the easy way because a lot of generative LLM models are text to text, right? I can do 10 more blog posts than I could before. I could do a bunch more case studies just by feeding in to ChatGPT or Claude a bunch of prompts. And I've definitely tested and toyed with the idea of how do I use these tools to upskill and upscale what I'm doing. But I don't know, for right now, I'm like, I really like still being able to have the ability to be a human writer and still have that one-on-one touch with clients. So I guess my point is I don't necessarily have a great answer for you. It's a harder thing to scale, especially if you, like I do, prioritize quality and prioritize the relationships that come with part of this. So I'm sure some people are definitely doing the scale thing and definitely using AI to blow it out of the water, but I'm more skeptical about that. I'm trying to kind of slow walk this whole thing and take it a piece at a time.
Well, what's interesting is one of the things you said is like this is a creative outlet for you of being able to do the things that you don't necessarily get to do for work.
Exactly.
So, what's interesting about that is, I could see why you wouldn't want to use these AI tools because the whole reason you said you did this was to have a creative outlet for yourself for doing the things that you don't necessarily get to do at work.
Absolutely.
And so, it's interesting to kind of think about that. Is there any like other ways that you've thought about maybe using automation or tools or things like that have helped you out in terms of this process?
I think the thing, at least where I am in my career, and I think where AI is in its development, is, a lot of those administrative tasks, making sure that I'm sending an invoice to my client the right way, to make sure that I'm staying within scope, like almost being like a project manager for me.
Yeah.
That's where I hope that AI can kind of stay in its lane and let me do the creative pieces, as you were talking about. Like, I enjoy do the writing part. Like that's the value that I bring. Being able to have a conversation with a client and then be able to have a good case study or something that comes out of that. Like, that's where I bring value. Where I struggle in the things that I would love to hand off to AI, whichever tool it is, and say, hey, I'd love to be able to outsource the invoicing, almost act as like a personal assistant. Like, and that's where I almost see it in the agency world as well. Like, a lot of the things that, like the deliverables we share with our clients, websites, graphics that we design, the code that our developer puts in for a website, like those are the things, that's the reason you hire us as an agency, is to be an expert in those areas. But a lot of the administrative things, the logistics, the project management, some of those things, some of that stuff could be outsourced. It's hard to figure out the exact right way to do it and to stay on top of it and to also trust making sure that the, hallucinations don't happen, and then there's still a relationship there.
Right.
Like that's what we don't want to sacrifice. But that's where I'm hoping and trying to play with getting AI and working that into my workflow.
Yeah.
But it's a process, and I think we all see where AI is going and give it credit for its potential. But I'm like, but for right now in 2025. How can we practically take advantage of this, and how can we really use it for our businesses and for our side hustles?
Yeah. So let's talk about another thing that you do. You started writing books as well.
I have.
And it's a very different customer approach, I think, compared to like the freelance copywriting, right? Like you've got to go out and find the customer or client and do work for them. Whereas this, it's almost like you're doing like spec work, right? Like you're writing a book because you want to write a book and hoping that there is some audience out there, right?
Yes.
So first of all, talk to us about what are kind of the types of books that you're writing, like the themes. Is it fiction, nonfiction? What is it? And then why did you decide that? And how is it going?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wonder myself how it's going sometimes. So I've written, I'm publishing my fourth book in November 2025. So it's my first fiction book. All the other ones to this point have been nonfiction, which has been fun. And it's there's advantages and disadvantages to both. And you market different ways to different audiences. The first one that I self-published in 2017 was a Christian devotional about storytelling. And storytelling is kind of the undercurrent for all of what I do. It's the thing that I'm passionate about in work. It's the thing that I'm passionate about in the books that I write. And so I was working in kind of a Christian nonprofit at the time. So I was like, okay, what's the faith angle that I can take on storytelling? 3 years ago, I wrote a book called The Story Cycle that is kind of more business. It's taking that same idea of storytelling. How do we use principles of storytelling in our businesses to market ourselves, to tell our story, to connect with more customers and clients? It's very similar to Story Brands by Donald Miller, which is another kind of big brand in that space. It was just kind of what I was doing at the time. That's when I started at Green Melon, working in a marketing agency. I was like, I want to sit down and describe what we do and talk about the process and think about all the different ways that businesses could learn from this. And so I put it up into a book. I worked with a publisher for that one. It was like a hybrid publisher. We split the costs of production and everything. And so that was a unique opportunity, different from self-publishing. And then this new book, which again is a novel, it's fiction, which has been a whole very different process to write and also now get ready for marketing. And I have a traditional publisher where we signed a contract and they're taking care of all the costs and design. And so that's been a cool process to learn and see, again, especially compared to the different processes I took for my books before. But it's called The Storymancer. It's like a young adult fantasy novel where storytelling is the magic of the world. So I won't say any more than that, but it's kind of, it was a cool, different kind of take on this same concept that I've been exploring and writing about for a long, long time. And I don't know, I also try to set reasonable expectations for myself, because writing a book just in and of itself, like being able to publish it and put it out to the world, I think is a big accomplishment that a lot of us don't get to do. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm really just lucky to have the opportunity. So I try to gauge it more on that and the opportunities that it creates rather than just like the number of books that I've sold. Because that's the thing I tell all these prospective authors who I love having conversations with people like, I would love to write a book one day. Tell me about it. Like, just as long as you're not expecting like New York Times bestseller out of the gate, don't expect to like get rich or famous off of this. But like, if you do it for the love of being able to like create something and put a book out there and just be able to have conversations with people about what that process was like, then it's well worthwhile, and it's worth all the hours and hours that you have to put into it to get to this point. Because it has seriously taken years for each book to be able to kind of release it to the world. But it's a fun process.
How long does it take you to write one of these?
Ironically, so the first one actually only took me about 2 months to write. I mean, it was short. It was about 30,000 words, which that's another thing you'll learn if you ever write a book. It's more in words than it is pages, because everybody says, well, how many pages? I'm like, I don't know. What's the font size? How big is the book? Like, it's a different thing. So I've learned mostly how much I do not know about publishing. But I've picked up some of those things. So it only took me a couple months to write the first one, but it took me about a year to actually edit it and to get it into a place where I could actually be ready to publish it. The second one took me, about 6 months to be able to write it and put it together and pitch it to a publisher. This most recent one, the novel, and that's probably just because it's fiction and a little bit different, it took me about 3 years to write it and revise again and again and again and get those characters in the right places, to get the plot polished and down. That's you don't really have characters and plots. It's, you're not making things up when it's a nonfiction book. A fiction is like it's a true blank page. You've got so many more things that could happen. So it took me, 3 or 4 years to get it to where it was ready to pitch to a publisher. And
did you work with somebody else along that way, especially for the fiction book?
Sure. I was sharing it with mostly family and friends. I'm in a writing group that I shared different versions with over the years and asked their opinions and advice.
Right.
That's another thing that I've very much learned is the kind of the journey to becoming an author is not one person kind of closing themselves in a room with a typewriter and just cranking out a beautiful award-winning manuscript like you truly do.
Unless you're Stephen King.
Sure,
Stephen King does that, but
yes,
everybody else.
He's got the credibility to where he can do it. We are not Stephen King. I love Stephen King, but I am not him. I have to get input and feedback and advice and perspectives from a lot of different people. And that's honestly what I've tried to do is like build up my acknowledgements page.
Yeah.
Because everybody who's not on the acknowledgements page never actually reads it. But I tried to make sure that page was, full of people who I could thank and acknowledge and show that like, hey, there was several dozen people that put work into this, that had thoughts and input here. It wasn't just me, right? And that made it, every single book I've done that, and every single book has been much better for it.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's kind of like side effects of writing these books.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what those side effects are. How have they been meaningful? Have they all been good side effects? Have there been bad side effects maybe?
For them, I can't think of a bad one to this point, other than just like the countless hours that I've had to pour into promoting it and talking about the book. Maybe that's the one thing I'll say is it feels hard to be like a salesman for your book, almost even differently from being a salesman for your business. Like I believe in our business as a marketing agency. I believe in my skills as a copywriter. Like I can sit all day long and say, hey, if you need my help, I'm here. I can offer you my service. It's almost like a different, deeply personal thing to say, like, please buy my book. Like, I believe in this thing. I've put so much time and effort into it, and it's got my thoughts in my brain for the past couple of years, and you should spend $14 on it. Like, for some reason, there's just like this mental block, and I don't think it's just with me. I've talked to several other authors who said, like, yeah, it's kind of painful. It's a weird process that makes, even though I do marketing full-time, marketing for my own book is a lot more difficult than I would have ever expected.
Yeah.
But when I do it, when I go on podcasts, when I do guest blog posts and I go to bookstores, every time I try to put myself out there and actually talk about the book and get it promoted, like it's not always just book sales that happen. I've earned clients for myself, both as a freelancer and for Green Melon as a marketing agency, have come from promoting the business book that I put out there. Some of our new clients that come to Green Melon, we send them a copy of the book to help show and establish our credibility as an agency and for me as a marketing director to say, hey, like I've put thought into this. I have years of experience. Like here's the proof behind it.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of those tangential things that you wouldn't necessarily automatically think about that come with, again, I think a lot of it is connected to credibility and your legitimacy as an author to say like, hey, not everybody can do this, but I have done this. I've put the thought and time and effort into doing this thing. Yeah. And you can trust me as a result of that. So those are a lot of those things. It's opened up those doors for me to speak at different events and get in front of more clients.
Has there been something that's been surprising to you as a tangential side effect that you didn't expect from the beginning?
I don't know. I think I've had more conversations with people saying, "Oh yeah, I think I could write a book." Oh yeah, like I'd want that to be me one day. Like even if they're not like going to necessarily buy my book or be a client, like just seeing that kind of part light up in another person and going, oh, like that's a really cool, rare thing. Like I'd like to do that too. Yeah. And I try to encourage people and try to kind of, I don't know, just personally bring them along and say like, if you ever want to pick my brain, like this is a much more achievable thing than you'd ever imagine, especially with self-publishing. Don't expect, again, you're going to sell 100,000 copies, but like if you just want to put the effort in and be able to say that you've written a book and like hold it in your hands, like you can do it if you really, truly want to and put in the effort behind it. So those have been kind of cool conversations when I've had them. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned earlier on was previously not being a parent and like the balance and all these kinds of things. Now having all these side hustles, I imagine makes it harder to find the time to do all of the things. So how do you think about that? And how do you kind of balance the full-time job and the multiple side hustles and the demands on time with family and friends and all of those things?
That is a question I get often, and that is a question I still don't have a full answer to. Okay. I often wonder myself, I'm like, why am I doing all these things?
Right.
And I think it's just partially because I'm interested and I'm curious and I like taking on, I enjoy the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I probably stay busier than I need to.
Yeah.
And I do always, there is a tension between personal and family stuff and the work things. And I mean, part of it is just having serious conversations with my wife. Part of it is just having serious conversations with myself and saying, can I take this thing on right now? Can I go to this extra event? Can I say yes to this podcast opportunity? Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I use that as a filter to say hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me take a minute to think about that. Let me go talk and have a conversation with my wife and make sure that's okay. And that, rather than giving the immediate yes, as often I would like to do, it helps me slow down and take another day or two and take a second to think about it and then be able to say, actually, thank you so much for thinking of me. I would love to do this opportunity, maybe another time, but no, now is not a good time. I have to say no to that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no is one of the most powerful things of understanding when you have to turn something down, when you have to turn down a client, fire a client, say no to a volunteer opportunity, because I mean, that's the thing. I would also love to do more of those, but you just have to, as you become older, as I'm sure you can attest to, you have to just be able to prioritize and whittle down the list of things that you're willing to say yes to. But also, I mean, there's a lot of things that I say no to, like watching too much television or not being on social media. Like there are other things in my life where I've been happy to say no to so that I can open up opportunities for some of those other things that I think drives more value. So it's an ever-evolving thing. I had to actually get rid of my freelance side hustle for about 2.5 years when my youngest daughter was born. Yeah. Because I was like, I know this is going to be tough. I know having a new baby and an older kid, all those things. But at the start of this year, when she got a little bit older, I was like, okay, I can start bringing some of that stuff on. And it was kind of funny how quickly I was able to turn it off. And then as soon as I made myself available for more work, it was right there waiting for me. So I think that's been another reminder too, is that sometimes I feel this, and I'm sure other people resonate with it as well, is that if you say no, then it's never going to happen again, right? This is my one shot. Right. I have FOMO if I say no to this thing. Right. But in reality, I think a lot of times if you're kind and open and available and transparent with somebody, the right opportunities will come back around to you when you're ready for them.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
I think that's the classic entrepreneur kind of fear is that closing off of those opportunities. And so you haven't felt that at all, right? At least the things that you've seen.
Sure. I mean, I still feel it. I still feel the the tension or the desperation.
But it hasn't actually happened necessarily.
Correct. Yeah. It reassures me, the universe kind of comes back and I was like, no, it's okay. It's going to be all right. I still feel that tension and can resonate with anybody who does. But I've been lucky enough to be in a position where the right things have come back around. And sometimes I had to say no to a client. I was like, maybe they'll ask me again and I missed that opportunity, but maybe that wasn't the right one to begin with. Yeah. So you have to be honest with yourself and understand what you can handle, what your family can handle, what your schedule is going to allow. I've become a lot better about just kind of resolving myself to that and being open to kind of what's available and what's not on my calendar.
Is there anything that made you nervous about undertaking any of these things, like writing the books or the freelance copywriting, things that kind of made you take pause?
I think the first thing that jumps out to me is the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm doing. Are they willing to pay me money to do this thing that I'm really not sure about?
Right.
I mean, even some of the administrative things with when I send over an invoice to my clients, I'm like, are they going to is this professional enough for them? Are they going to feel like I've duped them because my invoice doesn't look professional enough? I don't know. I can get in my own head and I can have that perfectionist mindset sometimes and definitely feel like I'm not worthy. But that has gotten easier over time now that I've done it several times. I've had lots of clients. I have not actually had anybody say any of the things that were going on in my head. My perfectionist brain is by far the worst critic than any client or any book reader or reviewer, anything that I've ever encountered. I've realized I'm my own worst critic and almost nothing I fear actually comes to pass. And so that's helped to kind of quiet those voices a little bit. But I mean, they still are there sometimes. If I do a speaking engagement or if I come on a podcast like this, I'm like, do I really have something worth sharing?
Right.
And so, that's just the reality. And I think all of us, to one degree or another, if we're being honest with ourselves, feel some of that.
Right.
So I think that's probably the biggest fear. But it has gotten much easier over time because I've got proof behind it. And I can say, no, I do have this many years of experience and I do have this many customers who haven't complained and have appreciated and benefited from the work we've done together. And as long as we can just be honest with one another and transparent and just, I can not try to puff myself up and try to win this client because I'm pretending like I'm the best. If I can just say, no, this is honestly what I've done and this is what I think I can help you with, then I don't have to be worried about them feeling like I've duped them or won them over or something like that with false pretenses. So that's another constant kind of thing that I struggle with in the background. I can quiet it more in the background now in my head.
Is there anything that you do other than that really helps you get over that imposter syndrome thing? Like, is there, like, obviously, like now having the history and have done it, that kind of helps quite a bit. Yeah. But was there anything else, like, especially in the early days when you hadn't necessarily done it, how did you get yourself over that?
So I read a book several years ago and actually reread it earlier this year called Soundtracks by Jon Acuff. Okay. I'm a big fan of his. He's written several books. I think this is one of his best. And it's about those little voices in your head because it's all about how to get over overthinking. And most of that imposter syndrome is just really overthinking. Right. I'm in my head too much. I need to just quiet these voices. But what he talks about, I mean, there's a lot more in the book than just this, but is replacing that kind of fear with the truth. And finding a little mantra instead of that thing that's running through your head that's causing chaos and causing doubt, to say, no, like this is the thing that I can hold on to, and this is a truth that I know can be true and real. So replacing what he calls broken soundtracks with like a real soundtrack that helps build you up rather than tear yourself down. So he's an entrepreneur. He's a guy who I really look up to. He's a marketer as well. Like I think very highly of him, but also that book has really helped me kind of process through those things and go, like, I don't have to be so much in my head. I can live more in the real world and in reality rather than worrying about things too much. Yeah.
And I mean, the truth of the matter is that a lot of us think that, what are other people going to think about me if I don't succeed at this? And honestly, most people don't think about you at all. Right? Like
the sad but true. Yeah.
Nobody's sitting there thinking, I wonder what Robert's doing. I wonder what Sanjay's doing. Like they have their own busy lives to think about.
Yes, they do.
And so nobody's really thinking about us that much, which for the good and the bad, right?
Yes.
Right? Because the bad of it is then you have to work so much harder to get your stuff, whatever it is you're doing, in front of them and get them to care about it.
Right. But you also can't do that if you're tripping over your own feet and you're being your own worst enemy. Sometimes we need to get out of our own way. And then also, like you said, realize that other people have their own stuff going on. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons I love that approach of just honesty and kindness. And if we can just meet people where they're at, I don't know. It's a very refreshing thing in this world and far too rare. So if we can do that, whether it's in business or in just personal life or relationships, whatever, if we can have that kind of approach and attitude, it just helps kind of smooth a lot of things over is what I've found at least.
Yeah. Okay. So last couple of questions here. Yes. Let's talk about the book. So you've done your first fiction book.
Yes.
What do you think? You're going to keep doing fiction? You're going to do back to nonfiction? How did that go?
I've got ideas for both. That's one of my harder parts is that would honestly be the thing. If I could choose one thing to do with my time is just write books. I like the stability of having a full-time job too much to just completely quit that. But yeah, I mean, I've got a couple ideas for fiction, other follow-up novels. I've got 2 or 3 other nonfiction books written. I just have to figure out what to do with them after this point. Because I love writing, because I do this so often, it is something I'm constantly working on. I do it for the love of all that. So yeah, I mean, there will be more books by Robert Carnes coming out at some point in time. And I try not to get too far ahead of myself because I'm I do need to focus on the one I've got right here. That's the one that's in front of me. So don't get too geeked out about the next one quite yet.
So. Is there a sequel to the fiction book? Is it going to be a series or what?
I don't think so. I think I bounce around too often and have too many different ideas to dwell in one place too long. I mean, maybe if people demand it too much and there's a market for a sequel, it could happen. But right now, the ideas that I have are on completely different things with different topics.
Yeah, so that's an interesting kind of approach because a lot of people will take one topic and become really good in that one topic. Not many of us are Isaac Asimov, who I think he wrote books that were in every part of the Dewey Decimal System except 2. Wow. So he has books in basically every subject during his lifetime. And of course, I know him for science fiction, but he wrote real, nonfiction books as well.
So I appreciate you comparing me to Isaac Asimov. That's very flattering.
great writer there.
Yes.
And maybe you'll get to that level at some point too, right?
Sure.
Have books in every part of the Dewey Decimal System. So why are you taking that approach instead of focusing on one like so many people do?
Sure. I think it's a lot smarter to not do what I'm doing. Like, I think it's a lot easier to market yourself when you're the guy who does this one thing rather than, I think it's honestly just my interests are just so broad and varied. And I like to read a little bit of everything. So it's more of a personal vindication than true, like, because I think I can market this really well. It is going against the grain in a lot of ways. So I'm almost not recommending it to anybody because I do have to almost rethink, like, okay, now I've got a completely different audience. And I need to talk about how do I build my website so that it promotes all 5 of these books that are in all different sectors and categories. So I am working against myself in a little way, but I think I'm doing it just because, like, this is the book that was in my head and that I just had to I had to write and get out there. But again,
it's not like,
done it.
Yeah, it's not like you can remarket to that same group, right? Like the nonfiction book buyer may not, that Venn diagram is maybe not as much overlap to the fiction book.
Correct. Yeah, publishers would recommend, like, stay in this world, build a whole universe around this, stay in one kind of niche place, because then you build up a cult following. It's a lot harder to do that when you've written like a Christian book and then a business book and then a young adult fiction and then like, I may be doing myself a little disservice, but it's okay. I'm okay to live with it because I'm building a lot of different audiences who have a lot of different varied tastes and interests.
Yeah, and you're doing it because it's the thing that you're interested in doing versus the thing that you're going to want to market.
Correct. I'm not chasing the dollar, but it's always nice. So I still want to sell copies of each of my books. Hopefully.
Well, listen, Robert, this has been fascinating and interesting. If our listeners or watchers want to find out more about you and connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so robertcarnes.org is my website. I put all the things on there, all the links to my books and all that kind of stuff. You can find all my books on Amazon as well, or wherever you find books. You can put in my name, and it's got all the different variations of books connected. And then at JamRobCar is where you can find me on all the social media channels, and those are also linked to my website as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on today.
Of course. Thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Side Hustle to Small Business podcast powered by Hiscox. To learn more about how Hiscox can help protect your small business through intelligent insurance solutions, visit hiscox.com. That's HISCOX.com. And if you have a story you want to hear on this podcast, please visit hiscox.com/share your story. I'm your host, Sanjay Parikh. You can find out more about me at my website, sanjayparikh.com.